Hello and welcome to the another special episode of the Silver Lining. Normally the weekly geekly talk show where we discuss any number of topics that may have come up during the week. But today we are talking specifically about the Indie World Direct. I don't know. Whatever Nintendo. I think they call it just Indie World. But it is Nintendo's indie centric presentation. So I wanted to talk specifically about those two things today. I'm your host, Uncle Silver, aka Silver Greg, aka Greg, whatever you're comfortable calling me. And welcome to you, my co-host, the chat. Always a fantastic time having you here, and I definitely wanted to discuss all of this stuff with you. Hello, everybody. I missed the Nindy. Yeah, they used to call them the Nindies, didn't they?
To me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.
Ray TFS, thank you so much for the follow. Very much appreciate that. Yeah, the can I call you handsome? Mm-hmm. So Nintendo did their indie centric direct today. It's basically what it is. It's called Indie World, and they focus all on indie games, which I got to be honest, I absolutely love that they do. I love that they take time to put the spotlight on indie developers. Indie games have been I love your follow notification. It's Somber. I love your follow notification. You should see my subscription notification. But I love that they put the focus on indie games. Indie games have become a major player in the video game landscape over the last 10 years. It seems weird, I've been a gamer for 35 years, so the idea that indie games are such a major part of the landscape now is just fantastic. I love seeing that. So it's nice that Nintendo is a company that is putting the spotlight on these games. I like that. As a presentation, the presentation itself was fine. Indie devs love the Switch too. Indie devs, you're right, John. They love the Switch. The Switch gives them plenty of attention. The Switch right off the bat became an indie powerhouse. The beauty part of indie games is that they don't require a whole lot of power to play. You don't need a high-end PC or a PS4 Pro or anything to play most indie games. So the fact that the Switch is able to run all of these games perfectly, you can do it at home on your TV. You can do it on the go. It is perfect for indie players, indie developers. Anybody involved loves the Switch for that. The event itself, the direct itself, is fine. Thank you so much for the 5 bits. I don't know. It doesn't come across as a big spectacle. Which is okay. These things, that's what they're supposed to be. There's just supposed to be information getting you out there. And it's funny because as an indie centric video, I don't want it to be a big spectacle. The whole point of indie games is that they're not AAA games. They're not giant stage presence, all the bells and whistles. And so the idea of having all of that to display indie games is just weird to me. You know what I mean? It's like $500 pairs of ripped jeans. There's an idea of ripped jeans that are originally were this sort of natural kind of, that's what happens. You're rough and tough and you're down in the dirt, working hard, and your jeans get ripped, but you keep going. And then so there's this idea that designer bummy looking clothes, it's very in stark contrast of itself. So I like that the Indie World presentation is it's here you go, here's another thing. There's no real goofy skits, with the exception of one video here was kind of a goofy skit. Ripped Jeans. Yeah, Ripped Jeans have a grunge kind of style to them, not a $500 fancy store kind of vibe to them. So it's weird when you see stuff like that. It's like I said, it's in contrast. Listen, yeah, we are in slow mode. We should be in slow mode anyway. So yeah, the presentation is good. And then my nose is super itchy. I don't know why. The games themselves were actually pretty decent. There were some pretty interesting games here. We're going to go through the games one by one in the order that they were presented. First was Sports Story, which is hilarious because this is the follow-up to Golf Story. As I was watching it, I thought, oh, Golf Story 2. And then he was playing tennis, and I thought, Tennis Story. And then I saw other things. I went, Sports Story? And then Sports Story was the title that the game ended up being. Oh, excuse me. I played Golf Story. It's a good game. A little bit frustrating, which is, golf games are always kind of frustrating to me. But it was a decent game. So I'm interested to see Sports Story and what they do with this game, how much deeper the storyline can get. I'm interested in it. Non-Nintendo Switch ports barely get noticed. Dust just popped it. Yeah, you're right. Best game already. I remember when I was younger, they used to have yellowed jeans. I mean, when I was younger, they were like, jeans of all different colors. But I think you mean like intentionally yellowed. Yeah. I had jeans of lots of different colors because I was born in the late 70s, was a child in the 80s, and was a teenager in the 90s. So I had jeans of a lot of different colors. That's a jean of a different color. I don't like all the variations of tennis, so it opening up to more forms of sports in general is something I'm happy about. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting that they showed more. I thought there was a scene in Sports Story where you're swinging the tennis racket, but your opponent is using the golf club to hit the ball towards you. I thought that was kind of funny, so I'm interested to see that. Wait, you're 50? Not that high. You drop 9 years, damn it. Yeah, I was born in 78. Golf, I mean. So then we saw Streets of Rage 4. It looks fine. I want to see it move a little bit more. I still wish it was pixel art because I'm an old man, but it looked great. Some of the it looked like a fun, silly aesthetic beat 'em up. You know what I mean? Which is Streets of Rage. Everybody remembers Streets of Rage, and they remember Blaze and Axel, and then you don't remember that there was a kangaroo in the third game. So it's got a fun aesthetic to it. I'm okay with that. So I'm interested to see it. Parents made me job yesterday. Luca Hedgen. Our side kind of reminds me of that new Battletoads game. Yes, but good. Gleamlight. Okay, I have a problem with this game. Gleamlight is this very, very beautiful sort of stained glass world game. My problem with the game was that they were selling it as this interesting concept. They were talking about how you are a sword who is like recruiting kids to play to use you as a weapon or something. And then I have notes here. That's what I'm looking at when I keep looking over like this. And then they were saying, like, there's part of the video where it says, "Did you notice how there's no UI? Oh, that's because you're the UI." But they don't explain any of that. And if you're gonna sell this game as some sort of interesting concept, you need to explain some of the concept. You need to give us some idea, because now I'm not thinking, ooh, I can't wait to see what that's about. I'm thinking, all right, well, I have no idea what the hell's going on. I don't know what all of that weird stuff was supposed to mean. So I'm less interested in it. Visually, it's great. But yeah, I need to know. I need to know more before I want to know more, which is the weirdest thing I could possibly say. Yeah, that was a weird selling point. Yeah, it's supposed to be like a selling point. And it's like, okay, but you got to explain what that means. You have to explain what some of that means. I don't need to see it being executed. I'll see the execution later when I try a demo or when you show me another video. But I need to know kind of what it means. What are we talking about? We're going through the Nintendo indie games. Then there was Bake and Switch, which was kind of a goofy, silly premise. That was the video where the guy, it starts with the guy like eating food. They're handing him food. They're handing him like cake, and then they hand him like waffles or something, and he, he's eating food, and he's like, we made it about food because we like to eat food. And I'm sitting there thinking, all right, it's I get that you're trying, but you're trying a little too hard. Could you just talk about the game? Like, it just didn't need it. It didn't need all of that stuff. The game itself seemed okay. It seemed like a sort of a party stylish game where 4 players are all on one screen and they're all kind of doing stuff. If you go back and watch the video, there were a few moments where the frame rate looked a little bad in the video. So I'm interested to see this game running. But it seemed okay. It seemed okay. It was okay. And that's just it. It just looked okay. The only thing I took from the indie world was Sports Story and Stranger's Wrath, which Megan, I didn't write that down. I actually forgot where that was in the direct, so we'll talk about that now. That was an Oddworld game, Stranger's Wrath, but it was like a platforming. It almost felt like a Western. It was supposed to try and feel like a Western, but in the Oddworld setting. It didn't really hit any buttons for me. That didn't push any buttons for me. So it was just sort of like, wait, there were, it's Somber. If you go back and watch, there was one scene in particular during that game, Bake and Switch, where there was a lot of water on the screen and there were some visual effects, and the frame rate, I remember seeing it immediately. I thought, wow, the frame rate actually looks bad. And then from then on, the frame rate was mostly okay, but the second I saw it, my first thought was, I kind of want to see this game running, because that was not a good sign, and somebody should have not put that into this video. Then we got Super Mash. Super Mash was this weird game where you put in 2 different styles of games and it cranks out a mashup of those games. So I guess you can put like racing and RPG, and it's going to give you a racing RPG mashup. That's interesting, but there's really only so many versions of that you can get. So I'm curious to see how fun those games are, or how not fun those games are. The guy that was presenting the video has a code up there so that when the game comes out, you'll be able to try out his mashup game. I'm interested to see how the game functions. Not how the mashups function, but how Super Mash itself functions. I wonder if the frame rate issues from the game itself. No, it was definitely from the game itself, because these are all put together presentations. So it was definitely from the game, but it didn't look horrible. It was just noticeable. Talos Principle, which was an FPS puzzler, which is actually on the eShop right now, looks okay. FPS puzzle game is not a genre that I am used to seeing a whole lot. Reminds me of games like Echo Knight, where that's, they're first person games, but they're not shooting games, that's sort of been my issue with FPS games, is that generally FPS games are bang bang shoot 'em up, and that only is interesting for so long. Looks interesting. So that racing RPG is essentially Yu-Gi-Oh 5D. Echo the Dolphin is a knight. I don't know, but I'd play that game. Then we got Sailsforth, which is a cute sort of pirate simulator. You have a ship and you build your ship up, and then you make more ships and you control what they do. I don't know how in-depth Sea of Thieves was, but it was like a cute sort of pirate game. The pirate aesthetic isn't really something that I'm interested in, but it looked cute. Hopefully it's a free game. Then we got Dauntless, which I have never seen Dauntless up until this point. I have heard of it. I never really seemed like something that would interest me. So I finally saw it. It is available on the Switch now. I downloaded it. So we'll see. I'll actually give it a try. After this video, I may actually play it. Murder by Number. Yeah, it's not totally Monster Hunter. Yes, but you know what? It's free Monster Hunter. So I'll give it a try. Metro is a good FPS series. Atmosphere is really cool. I think you may like Dishonored. Bert, no, I don't like Dishonored because I don't like stealth games. And Dishonored I played because people said, "Oh, but like you could play it as not a stealth game." And no, you can't, because the game does not give you enough resources to not play that game stealthy. So I was not a huge fan of it. I have it on 360, and I'm not a big fan of it. I like the world it's in, but I did not like the game itself. So you like Picross. So we got Murder by Numbers. It's okay. It looks, it looks like a Phoenix Wright style game, which is fine. I like Phoenix Wright game. I only ever played one of them, but I liked it. But I don't know, something about Murder by Numbers just wasn't really. Visually it was fine, but I don't know, something about the gameplay stuff was just sort of like. Okay. Then we got Skatebird. So right off the bat, Skatebird, the font for Skatebird, I'm pretty sure is Thrasher. So I don't know if this game is related to Thrasher the magazine or the website or the Thrash. I think there were Thrasher games, but Skatebird looks like not like Untitled Goose Game graphically, but it looks like Untitled Goose Game in the sense that it is sort of a silly, like at no point are you supposed to look at Skatebird and take it seriously. It's supposed to be kind of ridiculous. And I think that if you price that game low, it is an instant buy for a lot of people just because it's silly. Gamer Jam, how they at no point did they show a hawk on the skateboard and make a Tony Hawk reference deliberately? I don't know. I really think that should have been an easy grab in the presentation to show a bird. You have a skating bird. How you did not at some point try and make a Tony Hawk reference? I don't know. I think it's gonna happen though. Maybe they were legally they didn't want legally they didn't want to ruffle any feathers. So yeah, Skatebird. Liberated was ooh, you suck. Liberated was a black and white graphic novel style game, very noir style. It worked fine. It looked okay. It reminded me of when I first saw it, it reminded me of the cutscenes from the first Max Payne, where everything was a sort of graphic novel style. Looked kind of cool. Looked interesting. It's funny because they called it Cyberpunk. And when they first said Cyberpunk, my initial thought was, excuse me, this is not Cyberpunk. Where's all the pink and purple? But it looked okay. It looked, I think I'd want to see more gameplay of it. but you know, it looked like a relatively solid game. Oh boy, here we go. Then we got to Boyfriend Dungeon. Boyfriend Dungeon is a game where you apparently you have swords, but the swords turn into hot dudes, and you're trying to level up with the swords so that you can date them. I don't I don't know, man. I don't know that I ever looked at a sword and was just like super into it. You know, it just seems so weird to like, hey. That sword's been sitting there literally just to make that joke. It's Soul Eater. Well, a lot of people were saying Xenoblade Chronicles 2. A lot of people were saying Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I never played. But because I posted on Twitter and I said, you know, do you ever because this is the game for if you ever looked at your inventory and said, oh, fuck that sword. It's wild. I don't know what to think about it. And at the same time, I can't write it off yet. I feel like it's going to be silly enough to be interesting. People mentioned Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Some people also mentioned Skyward Sword. They mentioned Fee, right? Is it Fee or Fi? I don't think it's Foe or Fum. But they mentioned Fee from Skyward Sword. And a lot of people said, "Oh, well, that's, you know, it's sort of the same thing." You know, there's a lot of R34 about her, and my thought was, Fi. Is it Fi? I did not like the reference to Fi because my first thought was in the middle of everything. She is going to remind me that the batteries are dying. And that is not something I want to hear during a romantic encounter, is that the batteries are dying. Decap Attack HD remake. That daddy dating game still bugs me though. Which one? F Mr. Hatcher? Or that other one? You have to sex a sword. I guess as long as you've got your sheath, there's nothing to worry about. Oh boy. After that, we got Dreamscaper. We're just gonna move on there. We got Dreamscaper, which was okay. So I have notes here. What I did was I put a little quick blurb about each game so that I remember which game specifically. Dream Daddy, that's the other game. But I put little blurbs here to remember. The blurb that I wrote down for Dreamscaper is depression-based randomized dungeon crawler beat 'em up. And I feel like there isn't really much more to say about that. The idea is that the worlds that you create, every time you fall asleep, you create a randomized world that is based on your depression. The idea is that you're trying to fight through your depression. Interesting concept. It's an interesting concept. As a gameplay scenario, I don't know. I don't like it as a randomized thing. I think that would be more interesting if you had a solid game. Celeste was a sort of game like that where you were working through your problems, and I like that. As a randomized thing, I don't know. I feel like it's going to get kind of annoying. Master, your kissing power is currently at 50%. Well, then step it up. So yeah, Dreamscaper. Then we got Survivalist, which is based on the Escapist game, which I had never played. It looks okay. It looks like, survival based, very lighthearted pixel art game. Looks okay. Nothing really. I didn't see anything to write home about. For all I know, Escapist was the greatest game ever made. So it looked okay. Looked interesting. You could have like a team of monkeys, which is terrific. The last game was they started to end it, and then they threw another game at you, which was Axiom Verge 2, which I think is big news. I know that there was some controversy about the first Axiom Verge. I know there was some issues about when it was released and where. So there's a second one in the works. It says he's been working on it for like 4 years now. I never got to play the first one. I have very, very interested in playing it, and a lot of people have recommended the game to me because they have said that it is very heavily Metroid inspired. So I'm definitely interested in trying it out. Knowing that there's a second one coming out kind of makes me more interested. Yeah, man, summer 2017 was weirder than I remember. Another thing that bugs me, the phrase "writing home about." Well, because if something good happens, you want to write home about it. So if it's not that great, you don't write home about it. The Survivalist got me interested as an enhanced escapist super robot monkey team. Hyperforce go! Banana powers activate! Banana! Like it's everybody's got a morpher, but it's all bananas. Wait, Axiom Verge 2. It was at the very end, Mega. Very, very end. Even as a Metroid game, I didn't like Axiom Verge. A lot of people said that it was very Metroid inspired, but felt very hollow as a Metroid game. So I don't know how true that is. Ooh, banana. I think you would like it. And, oh yeah, Metroid vibes are really big with this one. I'm happy Tom Happ. Yeah, Tom Happ was the guy that he showed up. He was like the presenter for the game. So they showed a little bit. I mean, it looks really cool. It's obviously pixel based. It looks very, very interesting. I like the motion, the static sort of motion of the effects. So that's actually very interesting. Dear Mother, Axiom Verge 2 looks good. There's a game coming out about romancing swords. Oddworld coming to Switch. We'll write again soon. Love, Mike. We'll write to you in 2 days after the Game Awards. Hopefully there'll be something to write home about. Yeah, that's true. And that was it. That was the Indie World. Like I said, a relatively decent presentation. Some cool stuff there. Depends on how much you like or don't like indie games. Some very, boyfriend dungeon. Yikes. But overall, not a bad presentation. I thought that it was pretty good. So, we'll see when this stuff comes out, how well it does. Like I said, Dauntless is something that it's already available. Dauntless is already available, and Talos Principle is already available. Dauntless is free. Talos Principle, I think, is like $20. Very interesting. First-person puzzler is always very interesting. I still want to see Battle Block Theater coming to Switch. Still no Freedom Planet 2 news. The only way Nindie can promote the idea of kissing a sword. Yeah, you're not gonna get that on a Nintendo Direct. Hopefully my rations last until the Game Awards. This may be the last letter I send to you, dear Molly. There's only enough food for 1 day, so hopefully it will last 2. I said Boyfriend Dungeon seems a little too statutory to me. And it's funny because I saw a lot of people online saying, well, why isn't there a girlfriend dungeon? And I saw it when I saw those comments, my thought was, well, it's swords. And swords are, analogous. Swords are very reminiscent of penises. So it's Boyfriend Dungeon. Maybe if instead of swords you had like fleshlights or something, that you know what, we'll just move on past that. But thank you everybody for stopping in, for listening, and for joining this discussion on the Indie World Direct thingy. If you are watching this live right now, thank you very much. If you are watching a VOD of this, or if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to go ahead and click like and click subscribe, and follow me over on Twitch, which is where we, stream live, and follow me there. And if you're watching this right now, please don't go anywhere. But thank you everybody for stopping in. Have a great day, and I will see you all after I push this button next time.